Hollywood's Christmas season was unlike any other. Beneath the glow of oversized ornaments and extravagant lights, the city buzzed with its usual chaos of premieres, parties, and paparazzi. But for years, an inexplicable tradition added a peculiar chill to the festive air. Each December, every A-list celebrity, down to forgotten stars of yesteryear, received a personalized Christmas card signed with a simple phrase, "Sincerely, no one." These weren't ordinary cards. They arrived in unmarked envelopes, written in elegant calligraphy, and were eerily tailored to their recipients. Some carried heartwarming notes about their achievements. Others offered cryptic warnings that seemed to peel back the glittering facade of fame. It was an annual enigma, fodder for late-night talk shows and conspiracy forums alike. Lila Hayes, Hollywood's newest darling, found hers on her doorstep one frosty morning. She held it with trembling hands, her mind racing. She'd only just emerged as a leading actress after a breakout role that had catapulted her from indie darling to red carpet royalty. Yet, something about this card felt different, personal. She slid her finger under the envelope flap, revealing an ivory card embossed with her name. The message inside was short, but its impact was immediate. "Confess before the stage burns." Lila's chest tightened. What stage? What confession? As her eyes darted to the signature, "Sincerely, no one," an icy chill ran down her spine. The next day, news broke that veteran actor Charles Sterling, known for his iconic performances, had perished in a fire at the Belrose Theater. The details were as haunting as they were specific. Sterling's card had included the phrase, "Watch your steps at the Belrose." No one had taken it seriously, until now. Lila wasn't the type to scare easily. Hollywood had its fair share of eccentricities, but the card had gnawed at her mind long before the tragedy. Desperate for answers, she reached out to Marcus Grant, an investigative journalist infamous for unearthing celebrity scandals. If anyone could uncover the truth, it was him. Marcus leaned back in his worn leather chair, sipping coffee in the corner of a dimly lit cafe. His desk was scattered with old clippings, photos, and notes scrawled in red ink. He listened intently as Lila recounted the card's arrival and Sterling's ominous death. When she finished, he slid a folder across the table. "You're not the first to come to me about these cards," Marcus said, his voice steady. "This has been happening for nearly a decade. Some of Hollywood's biggest names have received them. Directors, producers, actors. But there's a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" Lila asked, leaning forward. "Every card with a warning has led to tragedy or scandal, and not just minor incidents, career-ending, sometimes life-ending. It's like someone's got a vendetta against Hollywood itself." Marcus opened the folder, revealing a collection of old Christmas cards. Each bore the same elegant handwriting, the same signature. "Sincerely, no one." Lila's gaze lingered on one card addressed to a director who had been exposed in a high-profile scandal years earlier. The words read, "The curtain will rise on your lies." Another belonged to a pop star whose overdose had made headlines. "The spotlight dims for those who burn too bright." "Whoever's doing this," Marcus continued, "isn't just sending cryptic messages. They know things, deep, personal things. Secrets no one else should know." As the days passed, Lila became acutely aware of her surroundings. She felt eyes on her at every event, footsteps echoing too closely as she walked home at night. In her expansive Beverly Hills home, the walls seemed to whisper her name. At first, she chalked it up to paranoia, but then the oddities began. She found a photo tucked inside her vanity mirror, one of her from years ago, back when she'd been struggling to break into the industry. She didn't remember the moment or the person who took it, but the back of the photo was inscribed with the same phrase from her card, "Confess before the stage burns." Her fear reached its peak when, during an interview on a live talk show, the host casually mentioned her connection to a powerful director who had recently been embroiled in scandal. Lila froze, her mind racing. That detail wasn't public knowledge. She'd buried it deep, ensuring no one would connect her to the man who had mentored her early career. Someone knew. As Lila wrestled with her unease, Marcus delved deeper into the origins of the cards. He discovered a peculiar detail. The cards had begun appearing shortly after the disappearance of Jacob Finch, a former child star who had vanished under mysterious circumstances. Jacob's sister, Evelyn, had also disappeared from public view around the same time, sparking rumors that the two were involved in something dark. Marcus also unearthed connections to an underground fan forum obsessed with the cards, where theories ranged from a rogue publicist seeking revenge to a cult operating within Hollywood itself. Among the forum's users, one screen name stood out, Watcher Zero, a cryptic figure who seemed to know far more than anyone else but offered only riddles. One night, as Lila returned home, she found her front door ajar. Inside, the living room was untouched, except for a single envelope resting on the coffee table. Her hands shook as she opened it. This time, there was no message, only a single name, Jacob Finch. The final line, written in the same elegant script, read, "He knew too much. Do you?" Lila's world was crumbling, and the line between paranoia and reality blurred. One thing was clear. She wasn't just another recipient of the cards. She was being targeted, and the next act of her life would be written in fear. The name Jacob Finch consumed Lila. The more she searched, the more unsettling details emerged about the child star's tragic past. Jacob had been a promising actor in the late 90s, starring in a string of family films that had cemented his place as America's sweetheart. But his fame faded after allegations of exploitation by powerful Hollywood figures. His disappearance a decade ago had been written off as a tragic byproduct of a child star's decline. But now, the card suggested something more sinister. Lila's instincts told her Jacob hadn't vanished willingly, and whoever was behind the Christmas cards wanted her to know it. She called Marcus, her voice trembling. "Jacob Finch, what happened to him?" "I was just digging into that," Marcus replied. "He was last seen leaving a studio party in 2013, one hosted by, get this, several people tied to the cards, directors, producers, big names. Evelyn Finch, his sister, was there too. She vanished shortly after he did." "Do you think Evelyn's behind this?" Lila asked. "I don't know yet," Marcus admitted, "but I'm starting to think she's the key." As Lila and Marcus pieced together the Finch siblings' connection to the cards, strange events began to escalate. One night, while Lila was reviewing old news clippings at her kitchen table, her home security system blared to life. The cameras captured a figure in a dark hoodie creeping along the side of her house. By the time police arrived, the intruder was gone, but the message they left behind chilled her to the bone. Her vanity mirror was scratched with the words, "You're next." It was clear the cards were no longer just warnings. Someone was watching her every move. Marcus urged her to leave town, but Lila refused. "Whoever's doing this doesn't want me to run. They want me to play their game. If I leave, I'll never find out why." A breakthrough came when Marcus tracked down an old landlord who once rented to Evelyn Finch. The woman, a chain-smoking recluse, revealed that Evelyn had vanished overnight, leaving behind a single trunk of belongings. Among the items was a worn leather journal filled with Jacob's handwriting. Marcus and Lila examined the journal in his dimly lit office. It was a cryptic, rambling account of Jacob's final days in Hollywood. He wrote about dark gatherings, secret deals, and his plans to expose the industry's hidden abuses. One passage stood out. "Evelyn says I'm playing with fire, but I can't stay quiet. They'll come for me. I know too much. If something happens to me, let the world see the truth." The final page bore a single name, circled in red ink. Director Thomas Lark. Thomas Lark was a household name, a director synonymous with blockbusters and awards. But beneath the glittering accolades, rumors of misconduct had swirled for years. Marcus managed to arrange a meeting under the pretense of writing a feature on Lark's career. Lila insisted on tagging along, despite Marcus's protests. In Lark's sprawling, coldly modern mansion, the director appeared unshaken by their questions about Jacob Finch. "He was a troubled kid," Lark said dismissively. "A shame, really. Hollywood eats its young." But as they pressed him about the Christmas cards, his demeanor shifted. His eyes narrowed, his voice grew clipped. "I don't know anything about those. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm a busy man." As they left, Marcus leaned toward Lila. "He's hiding something." But Lila wasn't so sure. For all his arrogance, Lark didn't strike her as the mastermind behind the cards. Something about his reaction felt rehearsed, as if he was playing a part. That night, Lila returned home to find her power out. Her phone buzzed with a notification from the home security app. "Motion detected, front door." She froze. The footage showed her front door slowly creaking open. Heart pounding, she grabbed a flashlight and crept through the darkened house. In her living room, she found another envelope lying on the coffee table. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a photo of herself and Jacob Finch, seemingly taken years ago at an event she couldn't remember attending. Scribbled on the back was a single line, "Confess before the curtain falls." Lila staggered backward, her mind racing. She had no memory of meeting Jacob, but the photo was undeniable proof. What had she done to be dragged into this nightmare? And what would happen if she didn't confess? Marcus arrived minutes later, his face grim. "We need to find Evelyn Finch, now." Following a lead from Jacob's journal, Marcus and Lila traced Evelyn Finch to a secluded cabin in the mountains. The journey was harrowing. Snow-covered roads wound through dense forests, each turn cloaked in eerie silence. As they approached the cabin, the setting sun cast long shadows that danced like phantoms. The cabin was in disrepair, its windows dark and unwelcoming. Lila's breath caught when she saw the Christmas lights tangled on the porch railing, flickering erratically in the twilight. It felt like a grim parody of holiday cheer. "Are we sure about this?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "We have to be," Lila replied, her determination outweighing her fear. They stepped onto the porch, their boots crunching on the icy wood. Lila knocked, the sound echoing ominously. After a long pause, the door creaked open to reveal a gaunt woman with piercing eyes. Evelyn Finch. Inside the cabin, Evelyn was simultaneously guarded and jittery, as if decades of paranoia had taken their toll. She denied sending the cards at first, but broke under Lila's persistence. "It wasn't me," Evelyn admitted, pacing the cramped living room. "Jacob wanted the truth to come out, but they silenced him. I was afraid to say anything, until the cards started showing up." "Then who sent them?" Lila demanded. Evelyn hesitated before opening an old wooden chest. Inside were dozens of photos, journals, and cassette tapes, Jacob's evidence against Hollywood's darkest figures. "Someone's carrying out Jacob's plan," Evelyn said. "But it's not me." Lila sifted through the contents and froze when she saw a name scrawled across multiple documents: Thomas Lark. Evelyn revealed that Jacob had gathered damning evidence linking Lark and others to illicit activities. "Jacob trusted someone to deliver it if anything happened to him," Evelyn said, her voice trembling. "But I don't know who." A loud knock at the door shattered the tense moment. The trio froze, dread sinking in. Before they could react, the door burst open, and two shadowy figures stormed in, dressed in black and wielding flashlights that blinded them. "Stay quiet," one barked, forcing them to sit. The intruders rifled through the chest, pocketing key pieces of evidence. Lila's heart raced as she recognized one of the men from photos of Thomas Lark's entourage. This wasn't random. They had been followed. Evelyn, seething with years of pent-up fury, lunged at one of the men, but he shoved her aside. "You think you can expose us and get away with it?" he sneered. "You've all gone too far." Lila spotted a heavy candlestick on the table and, without thinking, swung it at the man closest to her. The blow sent him sprawling, giving Marcus enough time to tackle the other. The cabin erupted into chaos as fists flew and furniture splintered. "Get the tapes!" Evelyn screamed. Marcus grabbed the chest and bolted for the back door, Lila and Evelyn close behind. The second man lunged for Lila, but she slammed the door shut, wedging a chair under the handle. They stumbled into the freezing night, the chest heavy in Marcus's arms. The men inside weren't far behind, and the chase through the forest was frantic. Snow clung to their clothes as they stumbled over roots and rocks, the faint glow of their pursuers' flashlights growing brighter. Lila tripped, spilling tapes and papers into the snow. "Go!" she shouted to Marcus. But Evelyn refused to leave her behind, pulling Lila to her feet. The trio finally reached Marcus's car. Marcus threw the chest into the trunk as Lila and Evelyn dove into the back seat. The engine roared to life just as the men emerged from the trees, shouting threats. As they sped away, Lila glanced back to see the men standing in the snow, their figures fading into the shadows. For now, they had escaped, but it was clear. The fight was far from over. Back in the safety of Marcus's office, they reviewed the stolen evidence. Among the tapes was a recording of Jacob Finch's voice, shaky but defiant. "If you're hearing this, they got to me. But the truth is bigger than me. It's about all the lives they've destroyed. Don't let my story end here." Lila's hands trembled as she rewound the tape. "We need to go public, now." But Marcus shook his head. "We can't just release this. We need to ensure it can't be buried." The decision was clear. They needed to find the person Jacob had trusted to carry out his plan. The answers lay buried in the labyrinthine corruption of Hollywood, and they had only begun to uncover the true depths of the conspiracy. The trio's next move was clear. They needed to contact Jacob's confidant. In the documents, they found a name, Mira Langston, an investigative journalist who had mysteriously vanished years ago. Evelyn claimed Mira had been Jacob's last hope before his murder. Using Evelyn's connections, they tracked Mira to an underground safe house in downtown Los Angeles. The scene was chaotic. Police scanners buzzed with chatter about a citywide search for the stolen evidence, undoubtedly orchestrated by Thomas Lark's network. Time was running out. Mira Langston's safe house was hidden beneath a derelict bookstore. When the group arrived, Mira's appearance shocked them, thin, weary, and always glancing over her shoulder. "You've got guts showing up here," she said, eyeing the chest Marcus carried. "Do you know how dangerous this is?" "We don't have a choice," Lila said. "Jacob trusted you. You know who's behind all of this." Mira hesitated before opening a steel cabinet. Inside was a wall of information, maps, dossiers, and photographs, all connecting Hollywood elites to an underground network of exploitation, bribery, and even murder. "Jacob didn't just collect dirt on Lark," Mira said grimly. "He unearthed an entire empire." "What do we do with this?" Marcus asked. Mira leaned in, her voice sharp. "We expose them, but we need to be smart. If we release everything now, they'll bury it before anyone can act. We need irrefutable proof and public accountability." They devised a plan to lure Thomas Lark into revealing his involvement. Using the stolen evidence, Evelyn crafted a fake invitation to a black-tie gala, claiming to have exclusive information to sell to the highest bidder. The note included veiled threats, hinting that Evelyn would go public if she didn't receive payment. "This is insane," Marcus said. "What makes you think he'll show up?" "Because men like Lark don't negotiate with fear. They destroy it," Mira replied. "He won't send lawyers or negotiators. He'll come himself to take control." The gala venue was chosen carefully, an abandoned theater with hidden cameras installed by Mira. The evidence would be uploaded in real time to cloud servers, ensuring it couldn't be destroyed even if they were caught. The theater buzzed with tension as Evelyn, Lila, Marcus, and Mira prepared for the confrontation. Evelyn, dressed in a sequined gown to blend in with the fabricated opulence, waited at the center of the stage. Mira and Marcus manned the surveillance system backstage, while Lila hid in the rafters with a recording device. Lark arrived as expected, accompanied by two imposing bodyguards. His calm demeanor only heightened the tension. Evelyn Finch, he said, his voice smooth as silk. I didn't think you had the nerve. I didn't think you had the nerve to kill Jacob, Evelyn shot back, holding up a dossier of incriminating photos. But here we are, Lark chuckled. Do you think these scraps of paper can stop me? Burn them? Delete the files? It won't matter. As Lark approached her, the hidden cameras recorded everything. Lila leaned closer from her hiding spot, her hands trembling. Just as Evelyn tried to buy more time, one of Lark's bodyguards revealed a shocking twist. He was working with Mira. In a split-second betrayal, the bodyguard disabled the cameras and seized the chest of evidence. Mira's face paled. He knew, she whispered to Marcus. Lark knew this was a trap. Chaos erupted. Lark's men overpowered Marcus and Evelyn, while Mira was forced to flee into the shadows. Lila, still hidden above, watched helplessly as Lark confiscated the evidence. I told you, he said smugly. You don't control the game, I do. Lila, shaking with adrenaline, acted on instinct. Using a loose spotlight, she sent it crashing down onto the stage. The blinding light disoriented Lark and his guards long enough for Marcus and Evelyn to regain control. Mira reappeared, clutching a backup hard drive she'd hidden earlier. Run! Mira shouted. The group bolted through the maze-like corridors of the theater. Lark's guards pursued them relentlessly, their footsteps echoing like gunshots. At one point, Marcus blocked a doorway with a toppled bookshelf, buying precious seconds. Outside, the group reached Mira's getaway van. Evelyn, despite her age, shoved Marcus forward. Go, she ordered. As the van sped away, Lila looked back to see Lark emerging from the theater, his face twisted in fury. He raised his phone, no doubt summoning more reinforcements. The group raced to a safe house Mira had prepared. Inside, Mira frantically uploaded the remaining files to encrypted servers, while Marcus and Lila watched the windows for any sign of pursuit. It's done, Mira said, slumping in relief. The files are in the hands of international journalists. They can't bury it now. But the victory felt hollow. Lark wasn't defeated. He was regrouping. His network was vast, his reach infinite. This isn't over, Marcus said. He'll come after us. No, Evelyn said with grim satisfaction. He'll go into hiding now. Public exposure is his greatest fear. The group dispersed, knowing they couldn't stay together. Mira disappeared again, promising to continue the fight from the shadows. Evelyn returned to her cabin, though she promised to keep in touch. Marcus and Lila, forever changed by their ordeal, vowed to rebuild their lives, but with an unspoken understanding that the battle for justice was far from over. As they drove away from the safe house, Lila looked at Marcus. Do you think it was worth it? Marcus hesitated before replying. If it makes people like Lark think twice, even for a second, then yes.